Hello everyone, hope you're all well and thanks very much for all the support with my videos, the likes, shares and comments. I'm very grateful. Today I'm back just up the road from Mount Street. As you can see, a couple of days ago I highlighted the tent encampment. Over 100 tents were placed here following the removal last week from the offices, the International Protection offices on Mount Street. It was said many had been moved to Crooksling and City West and many more places, and in the last day barriers have been erected along this stretch of the Grand Canal and all the tent encampment has been cleared from here. Absolute chaotic policies by the Irish government and a lot of the opposition, it has to be added, who are pursuing this absolutely chaotic policy. And their answer is to create barriers and to fence off areas of our beautiful Grand Canal in Dublin. Beautiful and historic Grand Canal. As you can see up here, benches are even fenced off. So this is the solution. Let's move the issue somewhere else. Over 180 people were cleared, as I said, to places like Crooksling in South County Dublin, out towards Tallaght, British direction, and City West as well. But in the last 12 hours, more tents have appeared further up the Grand Canal, and I'll just show you this in a few minutes. It's about a 3 or 4 minute walk away from here. So barriers, these companies are making huge profits from it. Another company profiting from the immigration industry, and not to mention the huge impacts it has on our wonderful city of Dublin. It was also added that up to 1,800 people are now without state-supported accommodation, and they're going to be provided tented accommodation in Crooksling also as well. So there was also reports that some people were offered money to move out of various locations, which hasn't been confirmed by the Department of Disintegration. But this follows on from the chaotic policies and the support of the Irish government in the European Union and NATO's proxy war in Ukraine, where over 100,000 Ukrainians have come here with state-supported accommodation. And Ireland are always complicit in standing with the move towards more militarism in the European Union. Even Macron has been speaking about getting boots on the ground. The Irish government are looking to try and erode our neutrality and drag us into a conflict. And working class people will be the ones who will die in these conflicts. But again, it doesn't serve the interests of the globalists at the top of society and the ruling classes, who are profiting massively from this crisis. So this is the impact, and I'll just conclude the video here and I'll walk up a little bit more and I'll add on and explain a little bit more about what's been happening in the last 12 hours as well. Here I am, just a little bit further up the Grand Canal where we just finished a couple of seconds ago. This is just up from McCartan Bridge on Baggot Street Bridge, which was named after the founder of the chairperson of the Grand Canal Company in 1791, and this leads up towards Leeson Street Bridge in the distance there. So here we have the tent encampment has moved now for the second time up here. There's about 30 tents along here, and there's about 4 or 5 just on the next stretch of the canal as well, and there is more barriers erected there as well. So this is what the chaotic policies are leading to. The Irish government's response is to look for more vacant properties and derelict properties and try and get them back into use so many more of their friends can profit from the immigration industry. And as I said, up to 1,800 people are without accommodation currently, not to mention about 600 that come into Ireland last week. We've seen the issues coming with the policies because of the UK, because of the Rwanda policy that I spoke about in previous videos. And as well, there is a push by Harris yesterday, who said this isn't Team Ireland. We should get together as Team Ireland and deal with this. Our great unelected leader, Simon Harris, who will only last probably a number of months in this role, I think, before he's replaced. But again, at the same time, it's absolutely chaotic here, and this is what Dublin is becoming. These issues are just getting displaced time and time again. Rather than dealing with our crisis, rather than having a system that's fit for purpose, and rather than having a system that's fair and efficient that people are aware of. But of course, this is the language that's coming from the Irish political establishment, and it's going to create more chaos. But again, who's benefiting? So many people in society are benefiting. The rich are benefiting, the globalists are benefiting from cheap wages, keeping accommodation costs high, and all these other issues that I spoke about in terms of the context of the Ukrainian war as well, and the move towards long-term, bigger accommodation centres. So it's pure chaos here in Dublin, in Ireland, and it needs a radical shift. It needs people to stand up against what's going on. There's huge crisis for already the working classes are impacted because of lack of services in our communities, lack of access to GPs, the housing chaos with over 14,000 people now in emergency accommodation, not to mention the hundreds of thousands who are in friends accommodations, parents accommodations. And so many people I've spoken to are in this situation as well. Meanwhile, there's so much wealth in Ireland. 2 billionaires have the same wealth as 50% of the population. But again, this is the reality we're dealing with. These added pressures are adding huge pressures on an already under-resourced and overstretched social service, public service system here in Ireland, which is creating chaos. But again, cui bono, who benefits? The big employers, the big commercial property owners, and the NGOs who are profiting massively from this as well, get so much of this government funding. And it's ironic when you talk about a humanitarian response, because there was never a humanitarian response to deal with our own full-blown humanitarian disaster, the homeless disaster for many years. There was never a drive to force people to give over rooms in their homes or properties to provide accommodation. There was never huge benefits given to people who are struggling along the canal here, and many of these tent encampments previously with ordinary people, many who were evicted out of the private rented sector here in Ireland, might I add, by many landlords of different ilks. Some landlords from Ireland and landlords from international investors as well, evicted people, and many ended up along the tents here and along the Grand Canal. And this was cleared by Dublin City Council. And up the road, there was an incident a number of years ago, just further up the canal there, where a man who was sleeping rough in the tent, he suffered horrific injuries as a tent was attempted to be cleared when he was in the tent and it wasn't checked by the relevant authorities. So this is what happens. This is what happens to people who are struggling, and this is the nonsense that has to be dismissed about the so-called humanitarian response and the obligations they claim they have. What about the obligations to people here in Ireland who are struggling, who can't afford accommodation, who are on hospital waiting lists? And that's what we need to stand up for. Stand up against the ruling classes in Irish society, stand up against the political establishment who represent the interests of the big corporate bosses, and bow down to their masters in Brussels every single time, the best boys and girls in the class, and selling off our sovereignty with the EU migration pact, not to mention the other stuff that's going on in Irish society. We see the huge push towards clamping down on free speech, such as the hate speech bill, which is Orwellian, and all these other issues as well. You need people to stand up for the interests of the people here in Dublin and the people in Ireland as well, because it's a city that I love and we're all proud of, and we need to have a vision of a city that's a city that looks after its citizens and people, and not the corrupt status quo which serves, as I said, so much of the scourge that is created around our city with gentrification and all those other issues as well. So thanks for joining me in the video today, and from Dublin, please press like to my Facebook page, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and thanks for all the support with my videos, and take care from Dublin on the Grand Canal. Slán. See you all soon. Bye bye.